FreeBooksTube is glad to produce, publish and offer. Merge with God by Neville Goddard. Divinity, if I could persuade you to believe what I hope tonight, then I will try. Your entire world will change. You hear the word God, the word Jehovah, the word Lord, the word Jesus, to work right, and you think of something other than yourself. Rhonda, there is a greater one that you would worship tonight. It is my purpose to show you that God and the eye of man are one. Whom you say I am, that is the God of Scripture, confined as you are. You think, how could it be? God created the universe and sustained you. Here I am, like a little worm, free-scored in 10 years, and then I vanish. But now that has turned. The scripture returns now to the 16th chapter of Matthew. And the question is asked of the disciples, the followers, those who heard him, and he says to them, "Who do men say that the Son of Man is?" And they reply, "Well, some say John the Baptist come again, others Elijah, others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." Then he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" And the spokesman called Peter answered and said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." He said to him, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood could not have told you this, but my Father who is in heaven." Oh, here he equates the Son of Man with the eye of man, not the organ that sees or through which it uses, but your sensible wind. That I am, this, when you are aware of being, your consciousness, your human imagination. So he equates that to the Son of Man spoken of in the Old Testament, brought forward into the New, is nothing more than the eye of man, and he calls it the Christ and defines Christ as the Son of God. No, be mine, Christ being defined in the New Testament as the power of God and the wisdom of God. So the eye of man is the power of God and the wisdom of God. If man does not know it, well, then he will not exercise that power, he will not exercise that wisdom. So tonight, I am trying to persuade you that when you say I before you say anything, that death is the power and the wisdom of God. You can't separate the power of God and the wisdom of God from God. So you will say in the end, I and my Father are one, for he is called the Son of God. Now we are called upon to test this, if it be true. Can we test it? I hope you'll put it to the test when I tell you that your own wonderful eye, and this is God, there prior to that you believe that you are something that will be across the earth for a few years, 70 years, and then you will vanish in the hope of some restoration, better hope, no assurance. And now I want to tell you that you really are God, your own wonderful consciousness, your human imagination, that is the God of Scripture, and there is no other God. You are in prison in these bodies of flesh. You did it for a purpose. Now let us see what it tells us about this Son of Man that is now equated with the eye of man. No one has ever ascended into heaven but he who descended from heaven, the Son of Man. You'll read that in the 3rd chapter, 13th verse of John. So here we find you are a pre-existent being. No one can ascend into heaven but he who descended from heaven, the Son of Man. Your ascension in the next verse, the 14th, is shown. You see how you were saying, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up? That's all imagery, and yet it is true. You descended into generation in a world of death, for everything begins, waxes, it wanes, and then it disappears. But there's something in you, a flow in this gamma, that does not die. That is pre-existent, and its home is heaven, which is harmony. You gave it up completely. You are pretending that you're a man. You descended into man. You became men with all the weaknesses, all the limitations, all the restrictions of man to experience this world of death and decay. There will come a moment in time that you will ascend from this restriction, taking with you the experience that is yours because of this restriction. And you will have seen in the same manner that Moses lifted up the serpent in divinity, that was an adumbration, that was a foreshadowing. You will rise from the base of your spine, up your spine into your own skull, for heaven is within you. And you will rise like a fiery serpent without any loss of identity, the form you wear. I hesitate to describe it. I will tell you that your face is human, your hands are human, your voice is human, but do not ask me to describe the body that you wear. It's a painful net, power, infinite wisdom, and yet it is a form. You are that fiery serpent. It descended not because of anything that was wrong. When you descended, the fall is not because of any mistake on our part. It's a predetermined plan to come down into the world of death and decay and overcome it. If coming down wearing these garments, we knew who we were pretending to be, we remained, we could not accomplish it any more than an actor on the stage pretending that he is Hamlet can act that play. He has to actually assume it, and even then it is still with a little something in his mind. He knows he is the great actor who tonight will go home. He was doubly home, and he would take off the garment and hang it up once more. Tomorrow, he'll replay the play. You don't do that in this play of God. You don't take off the gun you wear for your 70. If my strength is forced for maybe even longer or shorter, but the eye of man is the God of Scripture. Put it to the chase. Let me know first of all, before we go into the testing of it, make clear what I said on the last lecture night, Friday night. Prompted by a question that was asked here, where I have said in the previous lecture that they are ranked in heaven as they are on earth, or this is only a copy, everything here is a shadow. It's a copy of the eternal realities. Under the 12th chapter of 1 Corinthians, Paul described for the 8th rights. He does it many times, but he never changes the order. The first to the first is always the apostles, there's second the prophet, the third the teachers, and then he goes on, miracle workers, healers, helpers, administrators, and the speakers in tongues. But he never changes the first and second, the apostle and the prophet. You might think, because I told you I am sane and the word saint means an apostle, that I am appropriating unto myself a certain first rank. But now, put your heart at peace. I'm going to quote 11th chapter Romans as a row, or they're always a remnant of O. And the remnant simply means the elect of God. You're not elected because you were born by accident into some ethnic group. It has nothing to do with that. A descendant of Abraham after the flesh is not necessarily the elect of God. You are chosen from any race, any nation, any religion. Well, how the choice is made? No one knows. It remains the Father's secret. That Paul qualifies it in this manner, there is a remnant to this day, saved by grace. And if by grace, then it is not on the basis of works, otherwise grace would no longer be grace. Therefore, no one who is called can brag to be brag. He is not the same because it's all by grace. He didn't earn it, it is not by merit. It is simply a secret known only through the Father. So when we are called, He operated into the body of infinite love. Who is that? And then same thing, no one who is a raise of finger to brag or boast, for it is all by grace. Read it in the 11th chapter, the 5th and 6th verses of Paul's letter to the Romans. So now I have stated that, so do not think for one moment when I tell you I have been called and saying that in any way I am trying to act superior, for there is no intrinsic superiority to those who are called. Now, he uses an analogy, but I don't think it's adequate. But you can read it in the book itself. He uses the analogy of the human form, but not all the parts, eyes, nose, ears, and so on. But that is a weak analogy. Nevertheless, he uses that to show you the different parts in one body. But now to come back to make this a very practical night, believe me that when you say I before you say I am John, I am Bill, I am this, I am that, I am the other, you are declaring yourself to be. And that sense of being is God. That God, now, what are you going to put on it? All things are possible to God. Oh, you could say now, as you're seated here, after first affirming that I am you, you could then assume that I am you, name exactly what you want to be. If you believe what I tell you about your own I am, and I remain faithful to what you have assumed, that assumption will harden into fact. When you pray in the true sense of the word, you do not pray to any external God. That was my command when I was sent down with the blue blood. It has nothing to do with the social structure of the world. It is only to do with church protocol or external worship, all ceremony, everything that leaves the individual outside of himself to put a little cross on the wall and then bow before it. Seeing it as something external is not what Scripture teaches. Buried in the Old Testament there is a pattern, so he said, taking the trail we're going up to Jerusalem, and everything written about the Son of Man, which is the Isle of Man, will be accomplished. But they did not understand what he said. He was beyond their ability to grasp. He is going up, and only the one who has experienced Scripture. Which means he has actually resurrected the pattern, playing the part that is a central part of Scripture. He resurrects the pattern all within himself. He plays all the vows. He is the one who is born from above. He is the one who comes out of the grave unassisted. He is the one who 3 witnesses bear witness to his birth, whom about he is the ones I cannot see because he is now spirit, get married, and all the flesh in the world. He is the one who actually sees his son, David, and David calls him Father. And he knows he is David's father, and David knows that he is his son. He is the one whose temple, the body, he split in 2 from top to bottom. It is he now who is sadness, like a fiery purple from the base of the spine up into the skull. He is the one on whom that dealt a sailing and like to put his hand, like Noah in the ark, and as Noah brought the duck into him, you bring the doubt to you. For man is the ark of God, and as the ark contains all thickness within itself, man contains within himself Paul everything he creates from within himself on this pattern. The individual awakens within himself, and who does it? The eye of man, and that is God. Now, tonight, You're contested as you're called upon to test it. Test yourselves and see. Do you not realize that Jesus Christ is in you, unless of course you fail to meet the test? Examine yourself to see whether you are holding to the faith. What they have, someone tells me that I am a Christian or I'm a Jew, or in holding to that faith that they talk about. Know the place that I'm talking about tonight, that your own wonderful eye, and this is God tested to see if you're holding to that place, if you're holding to that faith. And all things are possible to God. You should be able to prove it in the testing. She's not here tonight. You promised she would write me a letter having told me the story on Friday, but I know she finds it difficult to express herself in writing. She can paint in faith and do all kind of lovely things in painting joy when I say to her, please write it that I may tell it to my audience before I close. But I have no future plans after right close on the 29, so I would like to share your experience with to encourage everyone in this world to do what you did. Well, the letter didn't come. I can see you struggling over one page and rubbing out a line because she didn't spell the word correctly. I'm going over the next one, but she can take a piece of canvas, a piece of paper, and do miracles with it. But because she is restricted in writing a letter, she didn't send the letter. But the essence is this: she is now a divorced girl with a little boy, handsome little fellow. Well, when you're living alone and you need money and you have a child who support and you have a home, all the things, and the money isn't coming in, then you're up against them. So she said, I blew my top as you're told in the Psalms. Do you then? I applied this principle and I assumed that I had exactly what I need. And from then, I got a call from First National City Bank of New York City. Now, that is the second largest bank in our country. Thank you, America comes first, they are second, and Chase Manhattan is third, giving me an order. He has no agent. This is an unsolicited statement. I order for $5,000, which he can execute and deliver within a month. Well, the First National City Bank of New York, he is not going to be hard-pressed to pay her immediately $5,000 if she called them and told the paid in advance. They would willingly paid in advance, and he said, I can execute that order in 1 month, but I want the detail. I had hoped she would send me, as she promised last Friday, but knowing her restriction concerning the use of words, you can use the brush and use the pen and use the pencil, but she's limited in the use of words. She would send it, but I had hoped to have it by tonight so I could give you exactly what she did, but this is what I do, having convinced myself through experience. I have come to the conclusion, because I am aware that I am that is God. For by him all things are made, and without him is not anything made that is made. And I start from scratch, only imagining a state, and then I broadly assume that it is real. That I am actually experienced in that state. Now, and then in the not distant future, that state crystallizes in my world. Well then, I have found God. I upon the source of the phenomena of life. My only concern then is to share it with others and tell them. For they're all one, we are one. No one is greater than the other, not fundamentally. In his claims of what he is in the world of Caesar, he has more money, or he has stones so and so, and so. But basically, The same creative power in the man tonight behind God's serving life is the same creative power of the one who sentenced him to life is the same thing. There is only one God. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And the word translated the Lord is God pays out. A properly French lady as I am, when you go under the people of Israel and they ask you what is his name and you claim that the God of Abraham and the God of Jacob and the God of Isaac, thank you, you say unto them, I've said that's my name forever, and by this name I shall be known throughout all generations. But man finds it difficult keeping the twins, and so he speaks up, thou art or he, and he never actually comes down to the fundamental. I know that I am the cause of the phenomena of my life, good, bad, or indifferent. I have to live with it. I change my assumptions if I were change the world in which I live, but now can I have a seeming other? I say you are myself. Push out, can I help another? Yes, because there's only one. This your request of me comes within the framework of the golden rule, something that I would like done to me, then I can willingly help you. If you ask me that which does not come within the frame of the golden rule, do not ask it of me. I grant you complete freedom to go elsewhere and go to anyone who will tell you they can do it in spite of what you say. Go ahead, but if anyone asks of me any request, all that I do is this. It's so simple. We are told in Scripture, whatever we ask of him, knowing that he hears it, it shall be done for us if we know he hears it. What can you imagine? She did it here on the surface of your being, a rational being, knowing something that the depth of your own being that encompasses you doesn't know. So you know when you think what he doesn't know, or read that in the story of Ezekiel, you're really in the 38th chapter, and these are the elders of Israel that went into the dark room, and they are carving on the walls or roof something, and they fade within themselves. The Lord does not see earth, and the Lord is speaking to his prophet Ezekiel, and you said the elders of Israel say that I do not see them, and what they're doing, making all these abomination things within the great cabin. They will all read them because I see everything that the elders of Israel, but they think because it's dark and it's a cabin, no one knows what you do, that God doesn't know. I have said time and again, there is no fiction in this world. You might have heard the story, and you read the story concerning the sea-jacking of the Queen Elizabeth. You might have read the article in Time that some girl at Hunter College wrote that story in detail, and she was so shy when it came the point to be raped, she could not read it. She's a shy, sweet lady with a gift of writing. She wrote that in detail, including those who seemingly participated, a terminal case in cancer and one who is running away from the law, who has nothing to gain, and therefore is quite willing to blow the Queen Elizabeth, the 2,200 souls aboard. If everything is completely in detail in her fictional story, the imagining creates reality. There is no fiction. So someone expressed her thought and called the captain, while at sea, and demanded $1 million, and would settle for $350,000. Well, it must have cost them, I should say, more. There are $1 million to stop that huge hub in mid-Atlantic. And then feed 2,200 people 4 times a day for the extra meals that they would have coming to them, plus all the things that you put it all together. It would cost more than $1 million. And a little girl, Austray, writing this for her PhD, or writing it for some reason, and she writes it in detail. They gave her name so you can contact her. They gave the screw as Hunter College in New York City, and everything in details. His toe in that Sterling who I chaired, you sit down and write fiction. Need not put it down, my friend wrote fiction. She had a large sum of money coming in, and she went to tongue within herself, and she wrote in herself and blew her top as it were. Thank you, didn't drink enough tonight. So she in the depths of her own conjured a sum of money that she needed. The young always go beyond. So we are children to sell the angry. But she not commune with your own heart upon your bed, and be silent. Yes, blow your top, but do not let the sun go down upon your anger. This silent as you commune with self, you don't commune with another. For the self of man is God. So be angry, but seem not commune with your own heart upon your bed, not communing with another. And then you actually know exactly what you want. I mean that state flawlessly and in a way that no one know in you in your surface lying. You do not know it would all come to bed. Everything in the world is created this way. But man does not know it who knows tonight who is petting the wine, bread that is going to call a change of mind and tomorrow as well. But when they do it, they are in teach in the doing. If you are lukewarm, you're told in Scripture ask you out with that you're either hot or cold. But because that you are lukewarm, I will spew you out. You can do anything if you're lukewarm. You must be intense about it. You want to be rich or like could be rich. You want to be known. You can be known. No matter what you want, but you must be intense about it and then commune with your own heart upon your base and then let it drop. You'll read that in the fall, saw the storm of daily. So I say to everyone here, believe me, your own wonderful I and your consciousness, your wonderful human imagination that is God, a power that you'll behold. Though it appears without, it is within in your imagination of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. So you can change the shadow. If you change the option or you are the light is it, I am the light of the world. Change the object that you're holding within yourself and identifying yourself with it. Change that object. You are lighting up and going to cast a new shadow upon the world. So you say, I am unity, and then you say, I am unemployed. No, I am gaining pretty and joy making more than I've ever made before. Don't ask yourself how, why, and through whom. That is not your conscious reasoning mind concern. If you take the intellectual background, the educational background, or those who are making top money in the theatrical world, I doubt that they could pass any college examination. I don't think they could pass any entrance examination to college. Yet they're making $1 million, $2 million a year. If you think Bob Hope could pass today's examination for entrance into college, but all of his maturity is written for him anyway, can't even write that, but he is million, all right, because that's how he drank me. I dare you, I know the background with the man friend of mine who is outgone from this world, played in vaudeville with it, and he would borrow from my friend every week a sum of money because he had to go to that post office and buy imposter money order and sent to his bank. He bored Murray. They were increased free because he was sending in me red. It was not interest free. He had to set a certain sum of money every week and he would send it into his account, and bought my friend Harry Wave, who had a band, and they together not in the same act. Harry had his own neck, he has a small band, and how he was the outgoing personality who didn't care about money, and so he wanted money. Hope wanted money, he were lonely, the money he always paid it back the next week and bought the game. Because he had to have so much in that bank every week, rather, We go into a restaurant and pool was left over like grape and brother who took it all home. Bob Hope, Bob took all the buns, all the rolls, all everything that was there uneaten. He paid for it and you paid for it. You don't want it, Harry, do you? No, all right, so he took it home. So he had 400 million, so they claim that was his goal in life. If that's your goal, have it. I speak of another goal, the goal of awakening to who we are. When man awakens from this dream, the whole bashful world and all that it contains is nothing to the being that you are. You came down from heaven where the whole is yours. As you're told in the 50s, if I were hungry, I wouldn't tell you. For the world is mine and all within it. The cattle on 1,000 hills are mine. So why should I tell anyone of my need? And it's all mine anyway. I wouldn't say anything. When you are awakened, you don't ask anyone if you awaken from this dream of life. But while you're in it, all right, we're one. This little hand of mine, if it begins to itch here, now it's easier for me to take this hand. It is not attached to this and scratch it and to try to paint this thing out of shape to scratch the back of it. I can rub it here, but why not this? This is easier and take a part of my own being to ease the itch. We all want pushed out. So you can do it, ask anyone that you trust. Now, I tell you, if he knows how to pray, he isn't going to burst any blood vessel. He isn't going to get down on his knees and pray to any external god. If he knows how to pray, he isn't going to bait up anyone in this world. What he will do, he will simply represent you to himself as one telling him that you have what you ask to him. When he is satisfied that you told him that you have it, don't ask the second time for the same thing. Because he is not going to listen to you. He heard it, he is still hearing it, and he will continue to hear it until that which he has heard is perfectly externalized. So don't think you need simple treatments. That's a lot of nonsense treatments for what it either is or it isn't. So when they start getting you on the hook, and so now I think you'll need more treatment. You need more treatment, she or he or the crowd, they do not know what they are doing. When you pray, go within and close the door of the senses. Deny all that seems so obvious, and your Father who is within will reward you openly. But come here, we will show where you and the Father are one. So your commune was shown, and what did he tell you exactly what would ask of you? He heard it and had always heard it. It is, mean that you on the surface of your being, no doubt he will do it. You can ask anything. I want if it comes within the framework of yours. Code of ethics, don't ask anyone who knows how to pray something that does not come within his golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Just a simple event, and most of the requests would come within that rule and show you simply hear it and then you drop it completely. And in the depth of your own doing, you're still hearing it, and the Father knows all these always. And so you sing the best way to externalize it here in New York City many years ago. This lady, a lady of considerable mean, she left her home in New York City and might also perish with her 2 children, leaving her home and her maid before she returned. The maid took all of her furniture and took it away when she returned. The apartment was there, rate was paid every month, but there was no furniture, Not a thing is seen employed. A private agency told the police department, told all the authorities in New York City, and plus her private agency at the end of a few months. They did not turn up one thing concerning that stolen brothel. She came to see me until, all right, you're seated there and I'm seated here in my apartment. Now you are not seated in my apartment. You are seated right now. Close your eyes. You're seated in your own apartment and you had a grand piano. He said, no, I haven't. Yeah, no, but it wasn't that. Wasn't a concert grand. It was a grand, but not a concert grand. And on it, I had my pictures of my 2 children and I had pictures on the wall. She told me what they were and the furniture. I said, all right, we've furnished that place as you left. You have a memory. She did. Now when I stop talking is because you have. We furnished that place to me. Now you're going to go in and you want you to see your apartment from my apartment. You are in your apartment and you can feel your chair and get off your chair and figure the piano and see the children, the pictures of the children, and that's what you're going to do. She agreed she would do it, and then we simply broke this film. What did it take? 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Bad week. You rented her a bank on Madison Avenue, and she was coming out of the bank. She had a past history of mental state where she was put away for a while because she needed psychiatric treatment, and the bars on this video reminded her of her past history and therefore addled her for a while. So she came onto Madison Avenue and turned south instead of turning north where she should. Oh, when she discovered her mistake, she was at the end of the block. When she got there and discovered her mistake, she looked up and a very familiar angle were standing right before she came up to the face. That's her maid, and the maid started to scream. She waved over to the maid and grabbed her, told her, like, change and hail the oncoming taxi and say you're taking me right now. And the maid, who could have killed her, she was so big and strong, was so reduced in potency because of the discovery. And the maid took her to the place where she had stored that furniture. She did not bring an action against you. I want my furniture, and she got it back into her own apartment within due hash to her mistake. And the father later all asked to go to the aim. If I go to the aim and give thanks to the aim and pour the aim, it's done. Now let's the one in the depth of my own being devise the best means to take me to that aim. This is where I start the painting. This is my beginning. And that is a story that I know. Come burst my ear, so do not attempt to devise the mean and tell the one that you ask to pray for you how it should be done. He will lose all interest and turn his back as if to go elsewhere. Who don't go into the object and tell him what he should do. If you go to him because you're trusting Jose, you are like going to trust in and continue. Or you're going to leave them once you go to someone that you really believe who knows how to pray. Don't tell him how to do it and what means should be employed in order to do it. He is going to go to the end. If he knows how to pray, the end is where we begin. In my end is my beginning. And we're always ahead of our evidence. So I go to the end. I see the whole thing done and then drop it and let it happen in my world. So come back. The I within you now you say, I. No matter how little you thought yourself so far, may I tell you, you are the infinite God and reign. The story of Jesus Christ repeats itself with you. Either you will know it's all I know. One called Jesus is going to appear. He is not going to push any stone away from you when you come out of that tomb. And then you know the words of John. Copyright 2024 by FreeBooksTube. Thank you for listening. Please consider to subscribe, like, and share to help the channel growth. New videos on a daily basis.